I told myself it would be fine. I said that on the drive over, watching the highway signs blur past in the gray November light. I said it again when I helped my son out of the back seat, straightening the collar of his button-down shirt the way he always let me without complaining. I said it a third time when we walked through my parents' front door, at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon, carrying a grocery bag full of ingredients for the birthday cake I had promised to bake, because that is what the oldest daughter does. That is what she has always done. My father was turning 65. The living room was already full. My brother and his wife were there with their 3 kids, Tyler and Becca and little Grace, all of them scrubbed and loud and taking up space the way only children who feel completely at home can do. My sister was on the couch with her husband, holding a glass of sparkling water and laughing at something my mother said. The table in the corner held a neat row of birthday cards. Streamers looped across the ceiling in my father's favorite color, blue, and a stack of small gift boxes tied with ribbon. I set the grocery bag in the kitchen. Noah came with me, staying close the way he does in rooms that have too many voices. He was 8 years old and careful with himself, always measuring how much space he was allowed to take. I had noticed that in him lately, and it made something tighten in my chest every time. "We can go home after cake," I told him quietly. He nodded and smiled up at me with that smile he saves for moments when he is trying not to ask for more than I can give. The afternoon moved the way family gatherings do, slow and then suddenly loud. My brother's kids ran circles around the furniture. My father sat in his armchair like a king receiving tribute, laughing at his own jokes, accepting the birthday punches on the shoulder from my nephew Tyler with exaggerated groaning. My mother moved through the room with a dish towel over her shoulder, patting people on the arm, refilling glasses. It was ordinary and warm, and I let myself believe, for about 40 minutes, that I had been right to come. Then my father held up one hand for quiet. He reached into the breast pocket of his flannel shirt and pulled out a stack of envelopes, white, the kind you get at the pharmacy. He made a small ceremony of it, holding them up, grinning. "For my grandkids," he said. "A little something from Grandpa." Tyler went first, running over with his hand out, tearing it open before he even sat back down. $20, he shouted the number like he had won something. Becca got hers next, and did the same. Grace, who was only 5, let her mother open hers and held the bill up to the light like she was checking if it was real. My nephew on my sister's side, Connor, was handed his and said, "Thank you," with the careful politeness of a child who has been coached. I watched Noah. He was sitting on the floor beside the coffee table, a little apart from the cousins the way he sometimes positioned himself. Not excluded, but not quite inside the circle either. He was watching the envelopes go around. I could see the small shift in his posture, the way he leaned forward just slightly, waiting for his name. My father shuffled through the remaining envelopes in his hand. He gave one to my sister. He gave one to my brother. He put the rest back in his pocket, patted it once, and reached for his glass of sweet tea. The room did not go quiet. No one stopped talking. My nephew Tyler was already spending his $20 out loud, debating between 2 video games. Grace was pressing her bill smooth against her knee. The moment slid past like it had never happened at all, like a sentence that begins and simply stops without finishing. Noah stayed very still. I watched his posture change. Not collapsing, not dramatically. Something smaller than that. The way a candle flickers before it goes out. He pulled his knees up to his chest and wrapped his arms around them and stared at a spot on the rug. I am going to be honest. The first thing I felt was not anger. It was shame. Hot, fast, familiar. The kind that lives in your stomach and tells you that somehow this is your fault. That if you were different, if you had been better, if you had married someone your father approved of, if you had not had Noah the way you had, quietly, alone, without asking permission from anyone, then maybe this would not keep happening. That shame was old. I had been carrying it so long I sometimes forgot it was not just part of my body. Then I looked at my son's face. He was still trying. That was the part that broke me. His jaw was set. His eyes were dry. He had that look children get when they are practicing bravery they should not have to know yet. The look that says, "I am fine. I am fine. I am fine." And you can see the lie of it in every line of their small body. I stood up. "Noah," I said softly. He looked at me. Let's go wash our hands for cake. I had baked him his own small cake that morning before we left the house. Chocolate, his favorite. It was sitting on the counter at home with a single candle and a card I had written the night before. I had done this because I knew, somewhere beneath the part of myself that wanted to believe it would be fine, that there was a chance my father might do exactly what he had just done. I had done it because I was his mother, and protection is not always loud. Sometimes it is a chocolate cake on a kitchen counter. In the bathroom down the hall, I ran the faucet cold and held Noah's hands under it. He let me. He didn't give me one, Noah said. He wasn't asking. He was stating a fact, the way children do when they are trying to organize something they don't understand. I know, I said. Why? I didn't have an answer that was honest and also harmless. I had been waiting for that question for 3 years, since the first time I noticed my father's eyes pass over Noah in a room like he was furniture. Since the birthday card that came addressed to me with no mention of Noah inside. Since Thanksgiving 2 years ago when my father went around the table asking each grandchild what they were thankful for, and skipped Noah so smoothly that no one else even noticed. You didn't do anything wrong, I told him. Not one thing. He nodded slowly. Okay, he said. Can we still have cake here? I thought about going back out there. I thought about sitting at my father's birthday table and cutting slices and watching my son eat cake in a room where his grandfather had just made it plain, in front of everyone, that he did not count. No, I said. Let's go home and have cake there. We slipped out through the kitchen. I left the grocery bag on the counter. My mother came around the corner while I was getting our coats, and her face did that thing it does, tightening around the eyes without changing her expression. You're leaving already. It wasn't a question. We have somewhere to be, I said. She looked at Noah, then back at me. He does this, she said quietly. Your father. You know how he is. I did know. That was the problem. I had known for years, and I had kept coming back anyway. Kept making the drive, kept baking the cakes, kept telling myself this time would be different. What I had not understood until that moment was that my knowing and my continuing to come back had been a kind of permission. Not consent. Permission. The difference matters. We drove home without talking much. Noah looked out the window at the bare November trees and held his astronaut figurine in his lap, the one he brings everywhere like a talisman. I kept my eyes on the road. Mom, he said, about halfway home. Yeah. Does Grandpa love me? I pressed my foot steady on the gas. I had rehearsed versions of this conversation in my head for 2 years, late at night after he was asleep, trying to find the version that was true without being cruel. I think your grandfather has a hard time loving the way people deserve to be loved, I said. That is about him. It is not about you. He turned the astronaut over in his hands. Okay, he said. When we got home, I lit the candle on the chocolate cake and sang to him. Just the 2 of us at the kitchen table with the lights low and his face bright and orange in the candlelight. He made a wish. He blew out the candle. He ate 2 slices and got frosting on his chin and laughed about it. I waited until he was asleep. Then I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop and looked at the bank account I had set up 4 years ago when my father's roof needed replacing, and he had called me, not my brother, not my sister, me, because I was the one with a steady job and a savings account and a habit of saying yes. I had been sending him $400 a month for 31 months. I did the math, $12,400. I opened the account settings. I canceled the transfer. Then I sat there in the quiet of the house with the cursor blinking and felt something I had not expected to feel. Not guilt, not relief exactly. Something more like clarity. The feeling you get when you've been squinting into a bright light for so long that you forgot you were squinting, and then suddenly you step into shade. My phone buzzed at 7:50 the next morning. It was my father. I let it ring. He called again at 8:15. At 8:40 he sent a text, just checking in. Call me when you get a chance. I was making Noah breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast cut into triangles the way he liked, when my mother called at 9. Your father got a notification, she said. About the account. I know, I said. There was a pause. He's upset, she said. I know, I said. She was quiet for a moment. Then, Rachel, he's 65 years old. He doesn't understand why you're doing this. I watched Noah arrange his toast triangles into a pattern on his plate. He was humming something. Some song from the space documentary we had watched the night before. He gave every grandchild an envelope yesterday, I said. Every single one except Noah. She was quiet again. You know how he is, she repeated. Yeah, I said. I do. I hung up and put my phone face down on the counter. The calls came in waves over the next 3 days. My father, twice more. My mother, 4 times. My brother once, short and awkward, clearly recruited. He said things like, "You're taking this too far and Dad's not perfect, and you have to consider his feelings." I listened to each voicemail once and did not return any of them. On Wednesday, my sister called. She did not do the thing of pretending this was a casual check-in. She went straight to it. "You're punishing the whole family over one moment," she said. "Over one moment," I repeated back. He forgot. He's getting older, he's distracted. He had 4 envelopes in his hand, I said. He counted them out. He had time to hand one to Tyler and one to Becca and one to Grace and one to Connor. He had time to put the rest back in his pocket. She made a sound of frustration. Noah barely even noticed. I thought about Noah's face, that stillness. The knees pulled up to his chest. The astronaut figurine. He noticed. I said. She tried a different angle. She said my father had done a lot for me over the years. She said family meant accepting people's flaws. She said Noah was sensitive, and I was making him more sensitive by reacting this way. She said if I wanted to have a real conversation about it, I should come to Sunday dinner and we could all talk it through. "I'm not coming to Sunday dinner," I said. She hung up. On Friday, Noah came home from school and dropped his backpack in the hallway and stood there for a moment looking at me with something careful in his face. "Ethan said his dad said you're being selfish," he said. Ethan was my nephew, my brother's son. 8 years old, same as Noah. I set down the dish I was washing. "Come here," I said. He came and leaned against the counter beside me. "What do you think?" I asked him. He thought about it seriously. He always thought about things seriously. "I think you're protecting me," he said. "Like how a mama bear protects her cub but without biting anyone." I laughed. A real laugh. The kind that comes out before you decide to let it. "Yeah," I said. "Something like that." He nodded and picked up his backpack. "Is Ethan still my cousin even if his dad is mad?" "Yes," I said. "That doesn't change." "Okay," he said, and went to his room. The letters started the week after Thanksgiving. My father's handwriting on envelopes that showed up in the mailbox, heavy-handed with the pen the way he always wrote, pressing hard like the words needed to be pushed into the paper. I opened the first one, standing in the driveway with the cold air biting at my wrists. It said I was acting like a child. It said money was money and love was love, and I was confusing the two. It said if I was going to cut off family support over a small mistake, then I needed to examine what kind of person I was becoming. It said Noah would thank him someday. I folded the letter and put it in the file folder I had started in my desk drawer. The second letter came 3 days later. The tone had shifted. More wounded. He wrote about everything he had sacrificed for me. The college application fee he had paid when I was 17. The time he drove 4 hours to help me move into my first apartment. He wrote that I had always been ungrateful. He wrote that my mother cried herself to sleep. I put that letter in the folder too. On a Thursday evening, my neighbor June knocked on the door. She was in her 60s, had lived 3 houses down since before Noah was born. She brought a tin of oatmeal cookies because that is who she was. "I heard your family's been coming around," she said when I let her in. "I saw your mother's car in the driveway last week." I put the kettle on. My mother had come unannounced on a Tuesday, stood on the porch talking through the screen door for 20 minutes while Noah was at school. I had not opened it. June sat at the kitchen table and looked at me the way older women sometimes do, like they are measuring something that younger people haven't learned to measure yet. "I remember when Noah was born," she said. "Your father came to see him once. In the hospital." "Once," I said. She nodded. "And I remember when Tyler was born. Your brother's boy. Your father was here every other day that first month. He brought a stroller. He put it together himself." I wrapped my hands around my mug. "I've watched you carry this for years," June said. "I want you to know that if it ever matters, if anyone ever asks, I've seen what I've seen." I didn't know what to say to that. It was such a specific and quiet kind of kindness that it sat in my chest like a small, warm stone. "Thank you," I said finally. She patted my hand once and finished her tea and left. The third letter arrived by certified mail. It was not from my father. It was from an attorney. A single page, the letterhead of an office in the next county, informing me that my father, acting as petitioner, was seeking legal intervention to re-establish contact with his grandchild and requesting that I respond within 30 days or risk a court order compelling communication. I read it twice, then I called my attorney. I had used her once before, for a lease dispute, and I still had her number saved. She picked up on the third ring and I explained the situation in the flattest voice I could manage. She was quiet for a moment. "Do you have documentation?" she asked. "I have letters," I said. "Voicemails. I have a video from the birthday party." My sister had posted a video on her social media page from my father's birthday. She had not intended it as evidence. She had been capturing my father laughing while the grandchildren opened their envelopes. In the background of the video, slightly out of focus but visible, was Noah, sitting alone with his knees to his chest, not holding anything. "Come in Monday," my attorney said. "Bring everything." That weekend, I sat Noah down at the kitchen table after dinner. I did not use scary words. I told him that some grown-ups were having a disagreement, and that there might be some phone calls and letters, and he might hear some things from cousins at school, and that none of it was his fault, and none of it was going to change anything about our life. He was quiet for a moment. "Is Grandpa trying to make you let me see him?" I looked at him. 8 years old. "Something like that," I said. He picked at the edge of the placemat. "I don't want to go somewhere I'm forgotten," he said. I reached across the table and covered his hand with mine. "You will never have to," I said. He looked at me for a long moment, deciding whether to believe it. Then he nodded. "Okay," he said. "Can I watch my space show?" "Yes," I said. "Go." At my attorney's office Monday morning, she laid out the documents while I sat across from her with the folder in my lap. "Grandparent visitation laws vary a lot by state," she said. "In most cases, they require the petitioner to demonstrate an existing substantial relationship, not just biological connection. Actual relationship." She said the word like she already knew the answer. "Tell me about the relationship," she said. I told her. "The birthday envelopes. The Thanksgiving he skipped Noah's turn at the thankful table. The birthday card the previous March that came addressed only to me. The Christmas 2 years ago when he brought presents for my brother's kids and nothing for Noah and said he had been too busy to get to the store, and then I found out later he had taken all 3 of my brother's children to a Braves game the same week." She wrote while I talked. I told her about the money I had been sending. 31 months, $400. She looked up. "And he never asked about Noah in any of those phone calls," she said. I thought back through those conversations. The ones about the roof, the car, the medical bill for a procedure that turned out to be routine. The ones where he called me daughter and asked me to come through again. "Not once," I said. She closed her notebook. "They're hoping you'll settle to avoid the stress," she said. "But if this goes to a hearing, I think the record speaks very clearly." I drove home with the morning light coming sideways through the windshield and the folder in the passenger seat. I thought about what my mother had said on the phone. "You know how he is." I had heard that my whole life, and accepted it as an explanation. As though the way someone is a reason to let them keep doing harm. Noah was at school. The house was quiet. I made coffee and stood at the kitchen window, looking at the backyard. The swing set I had put together myself last spring with a YouTube tutorial and a lot of swearing. Noah had been so proud of it. He still called it the best thing in the yard even though by now it was slightly crooked and one of the chains needed tightening. I thought about my father's hands counting out those envelopes. I was done asking to be seen. But more than that, I was done letting my son wait in rooms, hoping someone would finally look at him. The hearing was set for late February. In the weeks between, the calls from my family quieted. Not stopped, but quieted. My mother sent a card that said she missed me. My brother texted once to say he hoped we could move past this. I responded to neither. What I did instead was show up for Noah in every way I knew how. I went to his parent-teacher conference and sat while his teacher told me he was one of the most observant kids she had ever taught. She said he had written an essay for a class assignment that stopped her in the middle of grading. She pulled it from her desk and slid it across to me. At the top, in his careful handwriting, the title, "What Home Means." Home is the place where people know when you're sad without you telling them. Home is the place where someone makes eggs the way you like them. Home is where you're not invisible. My mom makes me visible every day. That is what home is. I held the paper in my lap and looked out the classroom window at the cold parking lot. He's processing something, his teacher said gently. He is, I said. He's doing it well. February arrived gray and cold. The morning of the hearing, I braided Noah's hair back from his face the way he liked it, even though it made him look younger, and made him oatmeal with the maple syrup he always put too much of. He was unusually quiet. Not scared, exactly. Careful. Do I have to talk today? He asked. Only if you want to, I said. No one is going to make you do anything you don't want to do. He stirred his oatmeal. What if Grandpa looks sad? I thought about how to answer honestly. You can feel sorry for sad people, I said, and still not go back to a place where you were forgotten. Both of those things can be true at the same time. He looked at this for a moment the way he looked at hard math problems. Okay, he said. The courthouse was built from pale stone, older than I expected, with wide stairs and heavy doors. I held Noah's hand the whole walk in. His fingers were cold. My attorney was waiting near the entrance, calm and organized, binder under one arm. They're already inside, she said. Your father's attorney is with him. I nodded. She looked at Noah. Hey, she said. Nice to meet you. You doing okay? He studied her for a moment. Are you good at your job? He asked. She smiled. Pretty good, she said. He nodded, apparently satisfied. Inside the courtroom, I kept Noah beside me. When the door opened on the other side, I made myself not flinch. My father came in wearing a suit I had never seen, dark charcoal. The kind of suit you buy specifically for occasions where you want to seem like a reasonable person. My mother was with him. My sister, in the row behind. My mother looked at me and then looked away. I had nothing to read in that look. After 30 years of practicing her expression, I still sometimes could not find what was underneath it. The judge was a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a beaded chain. She settled into her seat and looked at both tables without warmth or hostility, just the flat attention of someone who has seen every version of this before. My father's attorney went first. He said my father was a loving grandparent who had been unfairly cut off from his grandchild. He said I had made an impulsive decision based on a misunderstanding. He said children needed connection to their extended family. He said my father was prepared to demonstrate his commitment going forward. The judge asked my father directly, "Can you tell me about your relationship with your grandchild?" My father straightened in his seat. He talked about Noah's smile. He said Noah was a bright kid. He talked about how much he enjoyed seeing him at family gatherings. The judge leaned forward slightly. When is his birthday? My father paused. March, he said. What date? Another pause. The 14th? Noah was born on March 22nd. I watched my father's attorney make a very small and controlled adjustment to his face. My attorney stood. She was efficient and specific. She played 30 seconds of my sister's birthday party video, the part where the camera panned the room and you could see Noah in the background. Clearly visible, clearly unacknowledged. She put the birthday card on the record, the one addressed only to me. She put the letters on the record. She put the transfer history on the record, 31 months of money going one direction, and she noted the date the transfers stopped and the date the legal petition was filed, 11 days apart. Finally, she asked if the child wished to speak. Noah looked at me. You don't have to, I said quietly. He unclipped his seatbelt from where he had been sitting pressed against my side and stood up. He was so small in that room. His shirt was still slightly too big in the shoulders. He had forgotten to push his sleeves down. He looked at the judge. At Grandpa's birthday, he said, he gave everyone an envelope. He didn't give me one. He didn't say anything. He just put the rest back in his pocket. He paused. I didn't say anything either. I just waited. I thought maybe he forgot. But then everyone was talking and laughing and he didn't remember. So then I knew it wasn't forgetting. The room was very quiet. I don't want to have a relationship with someone who forgets I'm there, he said. My mom never forgets I'm there. He sat back down and leaned into me. The judge looked at my father for a long moment. Then she picked up her pen. She said the court found insufficient evidence of a meaningful prior relationship between petitioner and the minor child. She said the documentation in the record demonstrated a pattern of selective acknowledgement inconsistent with the petitioner's claims of a close bond. She said the child had expressed clearly and without coaching a preference against contact, and that absent evidence of harm from that arrangement, the court would not override it. She said the petition was denied. My father's attorney murmured something. My father sat very still. Carla made a sound under her breath, sharp and short. My son exhaled slowly beside me, a long, quiet breath, like he had been holding it for months. "Is it done?" he whispered. "It's done," I said. We walked out into the cold February air, my attorney walking slightly ahead of us, and the gray sky above the courthouse steps looked exactly the same as it had when we walked in, pale and quiet, and I thought how strange it was that nothing looks different after things change. The world just keeps being the world. Noah tucked his hand in mine as we went down the steps. "Can we get waffles?" he asked. We got waffles. We sat in a corner booth at the diner 2 blocks from the courthouse, and he put too much syrup on his and cut it into precise squares and talked about a project he was doing at school about constellations. He knew the name of every constellation in the winter sky. He told me facts about them with the focused enthusiasm of someone who has found the thing they are meant to love. I watched him talk and felt something settle inside me. Not victory, not closure, nothing that dramatic. Something quieter. The feeling of a door shutting gently behind you. Not slammed, just closed. The calls from my family did not stop entirely after the hearing. My mother tried twice. My brother left a voicemail that said he hoped we could repair things eventually. My sister did not contact me at all. I listened to my mother's voicemails. In the first one, she said she was sorry, though she did not specify what for. In the second one, she said she was sick and she needed me, and she did not want to go on like this. I sat with both of those for a long time. The thing about love inside damaged families is that it is usually real. That is what makes it so complicated. My mother did love me. My father, in whatever cramped and conditional way was available to him, probably believed he loved Noah too. That love was just not enough to override the hierarchy they had built, the one where some children mattered more than others, the one I had grown up inside and accepted for so long that I almost passed it on to my son without meaning to. I did not call her back. In April, Noah's teacher submitted his constellation project for a district contest. He won second place. The certificate came in the mail on a Friday afternoon and he held it in both hands like it was something fragile, and he grinned the grin that showed the gap where his molar was coming in. "I want to put it in my room," he said. We hung it above his desk with a blue pushpin. He stood back and looked at it with satisfaction. "Do you think I'm good at science?" he asked. "I think you're good at noticing things," I said. "That's the foundation of all of it." He considered that. "Mom," he said, "do you think Grandpa is lonely?" The question caught me sideways. I stood there looking at the certificate on his wall. "Probably," I said carefully. When people build their lives around who they think matters most, they often find out later that the people they ignored were the ones holding things together. Noah nodded slowly. "That's sad," he said. "Yeah," I said, "it is." He seemed to decide something then, the way he sometimes did, quietly and internally, without announcement. "I'm not going to be like that," he said. "I know," I said. He went to his desk and started on his homework. I stood in his doorway for another moment, looking at his certificate and his window and the poster of the solar system he had taped beside his bookshelf and the astronaut figurine standing on top of his pencil cup, the ordinary accumulation of who he was becoming. June came by the following Saturday with begonia seedlings from her garden, and we planted them along the front walk while Noah did his homework inside. She asked how things had gone. "Good," I said. "It's over." She pressed a seedling into the dirt with careful hands. "I've been thinking," she said, "about the things we teach children by the way we handle the things done to us." I looked at her. "You protected him," she said, "but you also showed him what it looks like to be a person who doesn't stay in rooms that harm her. That's something he's going to carry." I didn't say anything for a moment. "I hope so," I said finally. We finished planting the begonias in comfortable silence, and the afternoon light came low and golden across the lawn, and Noah opened the front door and called that he was hungry, and I called back that I would be right in. Spring settled in gently after that. The begonias came up bright and red along the walk. Noah joined an after-school science club and came home every Tuesday vibrating with facts about chemical reactions and weather patterns. He learned to make his own breakfast on weekends, standing on his step stool at the counter with exaggerated concentration. I started sleeping well again. I had not realized how poorly I had been sleeping until I stopped. One evening in June, we were sitting on the back porch watching the sky go from orange to pink to the soft, dark blue. Noah always called space blue, and he said, without looking away from the sky, "I'm glad it happened." I looked at him. "Grandpa's birthday," he said. "I'm glad it happened because after that everything changed and now things are better." I thought about the drive home that day, his face in the rearview mirror, the astronaut in his lap. "What changed?" I asked. He thought about it. "You stopped being sad in the way you were sad before," he said. "Before you used to be sad and pretend you weren't. Now you're just normal sad when something actually sad happens." I did not know what to say to that. He was 8 years old. He was already the smartest person I knew. I reached over and put my arm around him, and he leaned into it without making it a big deal, the way comfortable people do. And we watched the sky go fully dark, and the first stars appear, and he named each one as it came out: Vega, Arcturus, Deneb, his voice certain and quiet, and his entirely and completely his. This was the family I had. This was what I had built after I stopped letting other people decide what we were worth. It was not the family I had been born into. It was not loud or crowded or full of the complicated warmth of people who had known each other for decades. It was ours, and that was the only thing that had ever mattered.